student well-being. So faculty are often the first line of sight that we have on students here. Also, folks who are working with faculty or frontline with students get eyes on students a lot more than the rest of us, particularly in my office, because we usually only see students when they've reached the point where they're in distress. So hopefully this conversation today will give you some tips and tricks and introduce you to some resources, maybe some that you've used, some that you haven't used yet, and hopefully you can share this with a friend. Bring a friend, tell a friend. So today we're going to talk about our reporting partners. I'll show you our DLS team and introduce you to our website. Some invitations for conversation with students. So what are some signs that you might see that would be helpful to kind of keep in the back of your mind, to kind of open up that conversation about what would be good next steps for students. We'll introduce the CARE network, talk about CARE referrals versus academic alerts, which is an age-old question, especially around week 12, and we'll talk about that. The Red Folder Initiative, which I did a handout for you all, and then how to submit a CARE referral in our wonderful new system called Guardian, which I'm a huge fan of. And we'll have some scenarios at the end of the discussion, so hopefully we can put some of the learning into practice. So just by a show of hands, how many folks are faculty? Right. How many are staff? How many are staff that are like faculty adjacent? Advisors, things like that. So a little bit about me. I have been at AU, this is my 10th academic year. I started my time here in the School of Communication as the undergrad dean there. So I worked very closely with our faculty on the schedule of classes, the curriculum, advising, all of those things. So y'all are near and dear to my heart. And then I moved into the Dean of Students office in 2021. And starting with our reporting partners, you're probably wondering why I'm starting with offices, not the Dean of Students office. We work really closely with other offices on campus that frequently get reports. For example, the Office of Employee Title IX, anything that's related to sexual misconduct, discrimination, discriminatory harassment, etc., would fall under the Office of Equity and Title IX. And anything related to hazing, so those reports usually come to the Dean of Students office, and we work with student involvement and our conduct office, which is called the Office of Student Accountability and Restorative Practices, to investigate those and then let those other offices adjudicate anything under the Student Code of Conduct. You'll see here the DLS has arrows going to those other offices, so a lot of times we get CARE referrals that actually fall under the Title IX policy, for example. And as we are all employees of the university, we are mandatory reporters. So we, of course, then do a Title IX report to share that concern with the Office of Equity and Title IX. Similarly, we get all of the hazing concerns, and then we share those with our colleagues in other offices and strategize on how to address those concerns. This is also next week is our National Hazing Awareness Week, so definitely check out all the programming that our colleagues in CSI and other offices are going to be doing around that. And it's not just fraternities and sororities that engage in hazing. Academic alerts are over here as their own separate entity because we do not get any communication when students receive academic alerts. We do not have any ability to submit academic alerts for students because academic alerts are only given out by the faculty member who's teaching the course. So if you do an academic alert for a student, which you should be doing, and we're going to talk about when you should be doing that, which is as soon as possible, preferably before week 10. I'd like to show all of our smiley, happy faces. People often feel like they get an email from the Dean of Students office and they panic and they feel like they're in trouble. Sometimes students don't respond because they see where it's from and they think it's, they're going to get kicked out of school. I like to say that most of the time that we are working with students in my part of the Dean of Students area, we are dealing with students who might be having trouble, but they're not in trouble. So, please encourage your students to respond to our outreach because we want to help them. We're nice, we're happy, we have a lot of experience as well. We have folks who've been at the university for a while, folks who are newer to the university, we have folks who have been in residence life, in student activities, and all sorts of things. So please direct students to us, and this QR code will take you to our website where you can find a way to schedule with us. You can see all the different resources that we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about invitations for conversation. Students are balancing a lot of things, as we all are, but thankfully most of us don't have to do school too, or live in a residence hall with a roommate too. So they're managing things like what's going on in the classroom, what's going on in the residence hall. Maybe it's their first time having a roommate, or their first time potentially being awoken at 3 a.m. because somebody burned popcorn in the microwave in the lounge. Maybe they're managing serious mental or physical health concerns that are the ongoing treatment. Things at home, like financial difficulties, maybe their parents are getting divorced while they're in college. They might be engaged in behavior that's concerning, such as self-injurious behavior, suicide ideation, improper use of prescribed medications, self-treatment with non-prescribed medications or recreational drugs. So lots of things going on for them, and they're also trying to go to school, hopefully be successful in school. So here are some ways that you might encounter opportunities to.
Hi, you just called Amy.
I did not.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Invitations might look like if you notice serious changes in their academic performance. So maybe all of a sudden they've been engaging in class, engaging in discussion, and all of a sudden they come to class, but they have completely stopped contributing. Or maybe they were always coming to class, turning everything on time, and all of a sudden that drops off and they're not coming to class and not turning in their acceptance. Students might also make direct statements to you, or oftentimes statements in assignments that are concerning about self-harm or about things that they've experienced. Last year, we actually got a number of faculty sending reports in because they got concerning statements and assignments for what was formerly a UX student. Changes in their social activities, so maybe you notice that they are hanging out with a new crowd. In class, sometimes those dynamics can even show up right there where, you notice they were with like the high achieving students, and all of a sudden they're with kind of the people who are a little less engaged. You might see observable changes in their appearance, so maybe they are disheveled, maybe they have an odor, or they look like they have been wearing the same clothes for a long time, they've lost a lot of weight. All of these things are ways that you might notice things that would require a conversation. And sometimes students might just bring these things up to you in office hours, and then you have to figure out how do I handle that. Luckily, you're not alone, we're here to help. So at AU, we have an ethos of care. Hopefully you've all experienced this because we got a lot of care reports, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. I think this is my fourth campus, and I'd say it's the most caring community I've been in. Faculty, staff, students, everyone really wants everyone to be well, and I think that's wonderful because if you're not well, then a brief from you isn't going to be very useful to you. So I'm very happy that we have a community that wants to reach out to students and wants to get them the help they need. Our model is really based on early intervention. So as soon as we can get information, we can try to get to the student and engage them and hopefully lead them to the water, and they'll actually drink it, and we can get them moving forward and get them to out here successfully. But we can't do that if we don't know, and if we don't know early. So don't hold on to information. If something happens in those office hours and a concerning email comes along, don't just keep it. Let other people know so that we can get you some support and get the students some support. We also have an interdisciplinary approach. So the care team and the care network isn't just the Dean of Students office. We work really closely with our academic partners and some other offices that I'll show you in a second. But it really does take a village. So we don't think that we are the ones who can solve every problem. And quite honestly, most things that come up for students, we might start the process of resolving it, but we have to rely on academic advisors, we have to rely on the registrar, we have to rely on the student health center, the Center for Wellbeing. the faculty member to tell us what the last day that they attended the class was. So it really does take all of us to get students what they need. However, students are adults. It's a blessing and a curse because we are trying to empower them to make the choices that are right for them, but we cannot compel them to do what we're asking them to do. Unless it's a conduct-related matter, our office can't even compel a student to come and talk to us. So everything you all can do to help students understand that when we reach out to them, we're trying to help them, but it's incumbent on them to actually schedule the appointment, to come to us, to talk to us, to take the steps that we outline for them. Because ultimately, they're adults, even though their parents still love to call us. So this slide is about our numbers from last academic year. So this was our first year using our new Guardian case management system, which is amazing. And we had 2,236 individual care referrals. So the AU student population is like 7,000-ish students. So just let that sink in. Of those care referrals, 1,555 of them were for unique students. Yeah.
Do you think that's a trend that's across the country or more unique to us?
Do I think it's a trend that's across the country or more unique to us? Every school uses like a different system, so it's kind of hard to compare school to school because, for example, our old case management system, we didn't have a way of compiling cases that were the same. So we might get 6 reports from the community about the same situation because, like I said, we have a very caring community, and so the RA hears about it, the faculty member hears about it, the staff member hears about it. So now we're able to actually compile those all into one. So actually this number is significantly lower for us than it was the year before because we changed systems. Also the year before, we were still sending out letters for the old academic regulation for class attendance where any student who had sniffles or just said that they were sick had to come to the VS student's office and the VS sent a letter to all their faculty members. So our number in the 23-24 year was like almost double this. So it's hard to compare, it's not apples to apples. But I would say that in general in higher ed, there is more attentiveness to wellness and well-being, and there are more systems in place, and there are more and more case managers that are non-clinical on campuses, like in the student's office. Great question. So 1,555 unique students, that's a lot of students, so you can tell students that when they get something from us, they're not being singled out. It's not just them, it's almost a quarter of the population. And we have 1,348 student appointments. So most of the students that we work with meet with us, but not all. So let's talk about care referrals versus academic alerts. A care referral should be submitted for any concern about a student's overall well-being. There might be an academic component, there might not. There might be a mental health component, there might not. An academic alert should be submitted for things that are primarily academic, even though there might be a mental health concern or other wellness concern. But it's really about things that can be solved through working with the faculty member, completing assignments.
Advisor gets alerted of academic alerts. The advisor does not get alerted about care referrals in most cases. So this graph here shows the blue is the academic alerts over the course of each semester. So this is fall 2024 and spring 2025 and each week of the semester. Week 10 is the last week that students can withdraw some classes on their own. So as you can see, there's a big peak week 10 in spring where academic alerts come, but it's also the last time that students can make changes to their record. So we're trying to get this blue peak to be like here or here. At least fall was a little bit more stable. There were a few peaks so that students at least were getting a few different moments of information from their faculty about how they're doing in classes. But why this is important for the Dean of Students Office work is that students come to us after they get these academic alerts in week 10, wanting to withdraw from their classes. And if they've missed the deadline, they have to have a petition done and they have to have a medical reason to document why they would need to withdraw from the class after the fact. And they don't always have that reason. So sooner we can get information to them about how they're doing in the classes, the better, because we don't want them to be dropping or trying to withdraw from their classes right around the last day. Julie.
On that, happy.
Yeah, this is totally separate from tuition for just general withdrawing from classes. So the last day to drop with a W is the end of week 10. This graph, we'd like to get it flatter. The red here are care referrals, and then the green are appointments with the Dean of Students Office. So our appointments and care referrals are pretty steady. Academic alerts are a little bit yucky. And in spring, it's also usually when students are trying to graduate. So having the information here isn't as helpful as having it here, because sometimes it means that they can't graduate. Any questions about that? I know.
What about some
Strategies that you can help with. Letting your faculty know about this. I'm sure we can send these slides around. I'm happy to share this chart with you. Showing them that week 10 is too late. By that point, it's too late for most students. And also, I think encouraging them, if they are submitting care referrals, to really think through, would it also be helpful to do an academic alert? Because as I said, the academic advisors get all of their students' academic alerts. So they have like the full picture if the student's getting alerts in multiple classes. Whereas with a care referral, we're only getting the referral for that one situation. We, of course, know if a student has other care referrals, but they might not be related to that situation at all. And they might not have any indication that there's an academic. Yeah.
Again, David State had so players in the athletic US is not it. And then it's the opposite. Opposite strip to the referral.
That is correct. So academic alerts. Yes, academic alerts, the academic unit is alerted, and care referrals, Dean of Students Office is alerted. There might be other offices that are also alerted based on the information in the care referral, and that might include an advising lead, but it might not. Yes.
I'm going to we go. That's people know pretty get calls at the time. The professors get the not get to the university that is some effects of the Senate. And they respond to that, they look at their grades, they let it go.
That's an excellent point. This peak could be because it might be when there's a reminder that comes from the university. So Anna, to your point, maybe asking for reminders from the provost's office sooner about that. And I think there's also a tendency to skew assignments to later in the semester, obviously, because you're trying to give them more content. You want to have them have more to actually write about or to take a test on. So things tend to be weighted towards the end of the semester. So if there could be more opportunities to check in earlier in the semester, that would also mean the peak could, in theory, be moved up. Great point. Ron.
Good luck.
Midterms. So fall break is here. Fall break is around week 6. And midterms vary by class and by school. So I would say they could really be anywhere from week 5 to I've seen students taking midterms in like week 11 or week 12 after the last day to withdraw. So having almost no information about how they're doing in the class until it's too late. Yeah.
I think that I don't have sound readers.
yes, having some graded work early on, some check-in point early on so that you can get them the information, get the advisors the information as soon as possible. Because remember, early intervention, the sooner we know, the more options we have helping you. So, as I said, it takes a village, and this is just a small list of the partners that we work with in the CARE network. So, as I said, our academic partners, our academic advising units, our academic support and access center, which we do a lot of referring of students to academic coaching. We work very closely with students who have disability accommodations as well. International Student and Scholar Services, AUPD, the Center for Wellbeing Programs and Student Health Center, as well as Housing and Residence Life. So this is just a few. And our CARE network involves case management meetings. So we have 6 case management meetings per week. One is an internal meeting for the Dean of Students Office. One includes our campus partners from the academic units. For example, Tara from SOC is part of that meeting, as well as other advisors from other academic units, as well as the Center for Student Belonging. We have a care team meeting with Student Health Center, the AAPD, the Center for Wellbeing Programs, Housing and Residence Life. And then we also do a separate consultation with Housing and Residence Life prior to the start of the weekend so that they know any issues that might pop up when offices are closed. And we have a weekly consultation with the Center for Wellbeing Programs where we can share information with them. Obviously, they can't share information with us unless the students give a waiver, but it's a very helpful process for us to especially help students who either need to transition to care off campus or are transitioning back to campus from care. We have a process called the readiness to return process, which any student who is hospitalized for mental or physical health concerns, so not just seen in the ER, but was actually admitted to the hospital, needs to return to campus and bring a form filled out by their provider, explaining their ability to engage in classes and their ability to engage in our residential or just general community. This is not meant to be a wall. It's meant to give us a window how they are at that point, because the whole goal is to return in a different place than you were when you left. This goes for, medical leaves of absence as well. Students have to go through this process. So it helps us talk with them about what resources would be helpful to them at this new stage that they're at, because it doesn't make sense to do it when they're leaving. The whole goal is to be changed when they come back. What are other services that students are receiving from campus partners when they are coming to the Dean of Students Office? So we have a pre-evaluation that we send to every student who meets with us. And we ask them this question: what are other services that you're using? This is a word cloud of the most commonly used words: accommodations and academic. So faculty, advisors, academic staff, you are really critical to the student's experience. Obviously, counseling, medical therapy, there's a lot of other words here, but as you can see, accommodations and academic are the 2 biggest ones. And then, what is the student's ideal outcome from interacting with the Dean of Students Office? And you will see some dab in the middle in big letters: professor and class. So most of the time, students need us or want us to do something with their faculty, whether it's sending them letters or helping them advocate in some way. So again, you all are central to the student's experience when it comes to their well-being. So now let's turn to the Red Folder Initiative. Before we start that, let's pause. Are there any questions or comments from that last section before we move forward? So the Red Folder Initiative, and if you didn't grab a handout, there's some over on the front table. You can find the Red Folder Initiative on the Dean of Students website in a big red box on the corner. And I have to give credit to our Assistant Dean of Students, Alexis Downey, who went to a conference for higher ed case managers, learned about the Red Folder Initiative from other campuses, and decided that she wanted to implement it for AU. And so thankfully, she also has a graphic design background. So it actually looks much prettier than it would have looked if I had done it. So the Red Folder Initiative is not meant to supplant anything that we already have existing. It doesn't, it's taking over for academic alerts, not taking over for care referrals. Most of this information is stuff you either already know, stuff we just talked about, or stuff that was on other websites and other places, but now it's in one handy dandy folder. It isn't really a folder, but a sheet of paper that you could bookmark, or you could have posted on the bulletin board somewhere that you can easily access. And the goal is to be able to recognize, respond, and refer students. So recognize indicators of distress, respond with empathy and concern and tending to their safety, and refer to appropriate resources. Because again, nobody expects you to resolve a situation to completion unless it is purely about how they're doing in your class. We have lots of resources here that can help you, the student. So we'll go into a little bit more detail about each of these areas. Let's first talk about recognizing indicators of distress. So we talked about a few of the academic ones, repeated absences, deteriorating quality in work, always asking for exceptions or modifications. So one of the reasons that the old academic regulation about class attendance, where students had to come to the dean of students office to get excused from class because they were sick, is that we might be meeting the student for the very first time. And so they're telling us they're sick. We're going to say, oh, okay, you're sick. But I'm sorry to hear that. Here you go. Whereas if every time an assignment has come due, they've been telling you that they're sick in your class, you would know more about, oh, well, maybe they're not actually sick. Maybe there's something going on here. So that's why it's really helpful to have the faculty in the classroom be empowered to manage absences as they see fit. Of course, if a student has surgery or hospitalized or has a real need to have a doctor's appointment, we can always excuse the class for that. But most of those, I have a cold, you all can manage in the classroom. Other physical signs, so they maybe acted withdrawn. You've seen changes there in their appearance, maybe they're disheveled. Are there other academic or physical signs that you all have experienced that you would like to share? We captured everything? Oh, Jewel. Disappearing from the class, yeah. Right. Yeah, disappearing from class is a really good one, and that's one where you might say, oh, should I do an academic alert for this, or should I do a care referral for this? So hold that thought, because we have a scenario that I think will illuminate that. Yeah. Oh, welcome.
I caught there. One thing that was good was 17 help us achieve data that I call find the way they you put it and how I can face that deal copy all the study and then
Yeah, trying on another persona, maybe rolling with the less type A, getting everything done in time crowd, and the more yeah. Yeah, and that is very common to happen with the transition from high school to college, because basically to get to AU, they had to be pretty high achieving in the first place. And maybe now they're here, they're like, you know what? I'm going to try not going to class all the time. I'm going to try not doing my assignments and see how that feels. I'm an adult. Exactly.
I
The weather.
You know, and it,
Yes, the weather definitely can contribute. I've noticed, and maybe that's why the peak is so late in the spring semester. I've definitely noticed when I've taught in the spring, like on those nice days, I'm like, oh, thank you all for coming. Uh, some psychological concerns. Are there psychological concerns that you all have noticed? Some things like delusion or paranoia. I've actually, even today, been getting some faculty member emails about this. Sharing personal distress or sometimes like oversharing about things that are going on with them, their suicidal thoughts, family member situations, um, maybe being irritable, snapping at other students, snapping back at you, uh, physical concerns. So maybe physical violence. Obviously, if they get into a fight in class or they're, showing signs that they have bruises, things like that. Assignment themes that have hopelessness, violence, maybe talking about traumatic experiences that they had, despair, stalking. Are there other things folks have seen in these domains? And how do we respond? So the safety of our community is the most important thing. So if you feel like anyone is a threat to themselves or anyone else, the first thing that you should do is call AUPD 202-885-3636. If you don't already have it in your phone, please put it in there right now. And you should also download the Rave Guardian app if you don't already have it. This allows you to communicate directly with AUPD. It's kind of like having a blue light phone in your pocket. You can also text with them. You can submit anonymous tips. So definitely download that. Encourage your students to do that as well. Submitting an AUPD report does not mean that you have to stop there. You can also submit a care referral so that we know what's going on and we can do our outreach to the student and to you if we need more information after we get the report. But the immediate safety of the community and yourself is the most important thing. So call AUPD if you are concerned about safety. Next is to consult with others. You are not alone. Our office is here to help you. We are very frequently in consultations with faculty and staff about how to handle situations. So don't feel like you can't reach out to us. And the most important thing is to be a calm and soothing presence to try to not escalate things further. De-escalation is key, but if you can't de-escalate, at least try to maintain and try not to elevate the student any more than they might already be elevated. Ways that you can do this would be, finding a private place where you can have a conversation with a student. Sometimes it helps to change the locations. Maybe you could try to take a walk around the quad if something comes up in office hours. It's a little distressing. At least then you can get some fresh air. Maybe you can have other people who have eyes on the situation, and then you can decide if you need to engage AUPD or do a care referral at another point. Any questions about this? Yeah.
use that app again.
Yes, the app is called Rave Guardian. It's like a little blue shield if you're looking in the App Store. And you just log in with your AU credential. So listen, be affirming, give concrete help. So if the student's saying, oh, I really think I want to talk to a counselor, I really feel like some therapy would be good for me, that's great. Why don't we walk to the Center for World Programs together and I can, sit while you make your appointment. Oh, you're not feeling well? Let me walk over to the Student Health Center with you just to make sure that you get there, make it okay. And you can also always, if you want to call our office to get help, or if you want to call AU Protocol Services, which is our crisis line, sometimes it helps to do that with the student by your side. Yeah. AU Protocol is our crisis line. It's not on this slide. So it's from the Center for Wellbeing Programs. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week. Any student who's in distress can call to speak with a licensed mental health practitioner. They have clinicians that speak multiple languages, and students can call from anywhere in the world if they're studying abroad, if they're here, if they're at home in Idaho, or they're in DC. And the number is 202-885-7979. And again, I would encourage you to keep this in your phone. It's on the Center for Wellbeing Programs website as well. The Center for Wellbeing Programs also offers Mantra Health, which is an online telehealth mental health clinicians, and that's on the site as well. And Protocol is a really great resource to also share with parents and supporters, because they can call Protocol as well to get help for the student. So if the student is calling them panic and in distress and they don't know what to do, they can call Protocol. Protocol can help them talk through the situation with their student. Protocol is connected to AUPD. They know about resources like the Dean of Students Office. So even though they're not an AU entity, they are connected to us.
Separate. Separate.
It is separate. Yeah, it's more like the counseling center, because it's like a private clinician. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's 885-7979. So on the back of your handout, you have some tips on how to recognize stress and distress, as well as a reminder about immediate safety and situations that might just require the Dean of Students Office or other campus resources. And I just want to highlight this stressed versus distressed student. So going to college is inherently stressful. Taking a class is stressful. You have created opportunities to create stress in the curriculum so that the student can demonstrate their ability to recall the content, to write, to do whatever. So those are stressful things. We want to avoid stress tipping over to distress, where students aren't able to cope with the feelings that they're having, and where those feelings of stress are impacting other parts of their overall well-being. So, if they're doing all-nighters every single night because of your class, that's a stressful class, but it's also tipping them over to that point of distress. So the goal is to keep the stress level at the appropriate level for that student, which is going to be different for each student and for each situation, and to not let it tip over into distress. So when you have tipped over into distress, or you feel like it's heading in that direction, that's when you need to call in support from one of our offices. And in the interest of time, I'm going to skip through to how to submit a care referral. Has anyone submitted a care referral in the last academic year? Anna? Yeah? Great. Sarah? Anna? Great. Awesome. So for those of you who haven't, you can find the care referral form on the Dean of Students website, and you can also find it on the MyAU portal. And we have a new, like I said, as of last academic year, a new system called Guardian. If you've ever submitted an equity and title IX report, it looks pretty similar because they also use Guardian, but it's a different instance of it. And it's pretty free and user-friendly, in my opinion. But as I said, I'm a very big fan of Guardian, so I'm pretty biased. There are multiple forms that you might get to this landing page for. So that's why we have all of this text at the top, because if you submit a care referral, you would land on the same page. If you submit a neighbor concern, you would land on this page. If you can submit a hazing complaint, you would land on this page. So all this text basically just describes to you what each form means. But if you're submitting a care referral, the great thing is that you are already logged in with your AU credentials, so it already knows who you are, so you won't even have to fill in your name, your position, all of that will already be done for you. you'll just need to give us the information about what actually happened. So the report type is going to already be filled in. It'll be a care referral. He'll give us the date, the time. You can estimate, it doesn't have to be exact. The location, so if it's an on-campus location, then you'll also have to pick what building. And if you would like to be specific and say what floor, you can go down to that level. And if you have any additional information about the location, you can include it in the text box here. So if it's an off-campus location, like if you know that this happened at the student's house and they happen to tell you their address, you could give us the address there. If you think it's an affiliated house with the fraternity or a club, you could always list that information there. You're going to select from a drop-down the area of concern. So is it a financial concern? Is it a well-being concern? If you select well-being, there'll be another drop-down that you'll have to select more specifically. Is it medical? Is it mental health? Is it adjustment? Is it alcohol and other drugs? And then you will tell us if there are other campus partners who have been notified. So if you know that the academic advisor has been notified, if you know the Academic Support and Access Center, athletics, you can select other, you type something else in, none, you cannot answer this question. Or I guess you have to answer this one, you have to just put none. And then we do have 2 other required questions. So if the student has threatened themselves or threatened someone else. If you check yes for either of these, the report will automatically go on a report that gets sent to AUPD a couple of times a day so that they can take further action if necessary. And then any affiliations that you know that the student has. Are they an athlete? Are they working with the Center for, I see this is old because it still says Center for Diversity and Inclusion, which is now the Center for Student Belonging. We'll update that. And then the detail section, please include as much detail as you can. The more information we have, the better. And then you can list all the involved parties. So if it's just one student, you would just put them there. If there are multiple students, you can add as many as you need to. If there's a student, another staff member, a faculty member, you can put everybody who is involved in the situation there. If you start typing the name, as long as they're affiliated with the university, they should pop up that you can just select them. So it'll fill in their ID number, all that stuff, their email address. You don't have to worry about that. If you only have their email address, you could put that in and then it should populate the rest of their stuff. And if for some reason you don't see them in there or it's somebody who's not affiliated with AU, you can just type in the information and save it.
Supporting documentation. So if you have any files you want to drag and drop, you can do that here. If you want to drag an email from your inbox over here, you can. If you have screenshots, whatever you want to put, you can put that, or you can put nothing. It's not required. And then you'll select I'm not a robot, but only select that if you are not a robot. And then click submit. Any questions on how to submit a referral? Okay. So, someone asked earlier about kind of like what happens when you submit the care referral. So, the care referral is submitted, and these are kind of the different stages. So, our office reviews care referrals twice a day on business days. So, in the morning and in the afternoon, either myself, Alexis Downey, our assistant dean of students, or Ash Boltershek, who's our associate dean of students, will review every case that comes in, and then we determine who gets assigned to that case. 9 times out of 10, it is somebody from that earlier slide with all the smiling faces, but sometimes it might be another partner. So if it is something that's purely academic, so it comes in and it's like, Sally hasn't been to class in 2 weeks. But there's no other indication that there's something else going on with Sally, and Sally's an SOC, we would assign that to Tara, and Tara and her team would figure out what's going on, and if there was only that Sally, decided she didn't like the class, Tara's team would handle that and close it out. if Tara discovered that Sally had a death in her family and was having a lot of, travel back and forth and all sorts of things going on, she would assign it back to us, and then we would take it from there. So the person who is assigned the case is kind of the person who's supposed to take it all the way to resolution, even though along the way there might be, twists and turns or other people that get brought in to help with the case. Sometimes we get cases, like I said, that we actually need to refer to other offices, like Equity and Title IX, so we'll do that if that happens. And then we will ultimately resolve the case and move on. So hopefully the student will respond to our outreach, we'll meet with them, we'll figure out what the issue is, we'll get them connected to resources, and they'll move on. But if it's a more elevated case, more complex situation, we might raise it to the care team, threat assessment, it could be anything. Any questions about the referral stages?
Do you recommend or for or against us reaching out directly to them and saying, we haven't seen you in class, are you okay?
I definitely recommend reaching out and saying, are you okay? And then if they haven't responded, you can reach out to us, or if they respond and say, I've been unable to get out of bed for 2 weeks, then do a care referral. If they meet with you and say, they're in distress, you can say, hey, I just want you to know I would really like to do this care referral for you, so that students can reach out and offer you other resources, because even though we don't tell students who sent the care referral, sometimes they might ask, and it is part of their academic record, so they can get their academic record and see it. So they might find out, so it's best just to tell them that you're doing it. Our practice isn't to just say, oh, Magda submitted a care referral. We kind of start with, why do you think we reached out to you? And let the student go from there, and most of the time they tell us everything. But there are some instances where they say, I don't know if it was my math professor or my physics professor, but I think somebody did this, and I've never really had somebody be upset they have a care referral submitted.
It might be worth mentioning that an academic alert goes directly to the student,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
An academic alert goes directly to the student, a care referral does not. And in terms of follow-up on a care referral, Tara, did you have a question too?
I was gonna say the same thing,
Oh.
because sometimes faculty may just goes to the advisor and the student is on it.
Yes.
So it's like a letter to the student, formal.
Yes. A care referral does not go to the student, and we do not show it to the student unless they have a formal request to receive their academic record, and then we would have to show them their academic record. And I, in my 10 years, only had that happen, I think, one time. So we're usually able to bring them down if that's where they are, before it gets to that point. You are not going to necessarily get feedback about your care referral. So if you want to know who the case was assigned to, or if you want to refresh your memory on who you submitted the care referral for, or what you wrote, you can log back into the system. I'll show you in a second what it looks like, and you can see everything you have submitted. You can't see anything that we have sent to the student. You can't see anything the student sent to us. You can only see what you submitted. Yeah, Ron.
Let's say a student submits like 3, 4 classes, or we get into 5. Our first thing would be or let's say 3 classes, consecutive. Academic alert or care, or both. I mean,
I would, if it's just,
they're just because we get a lot. We have faculty meetings where it's almost like normalizing it. Oh yeah, mine goes to 2, and mine goes. I've got one of those.
if everything else with the student has been that they've been attending, and this is a totally out of the ordinary pattern, I would do an academic alert so the advisor can know, and the advisor might know from other classes that this is a pattern that's happening. And I would also do a care referral if it was out of the ordinary.
It just kind of sneaks up. You just look at your roster and say, oh, wow, what happened to this student? But we have several faculty that talk about that. And it's almost like normalizing. So their first thing maybe to do the academic,
Yes.
so that the student is aware.
The student is aware, and then also, and in that academic alert, you can say, I am also doing a care referral for you to connect you with the student's office. Yeah. The ghosting is,
I would also actually recommend taking attendance. I know not everyone does it, but if nothing else, it makes it seem like you care, which you do about your student, you learn their names, names, but you also can notice
Yeah.
if somebody stops showing up. So,
Is there a quick way of taking attendance in Canvas or something?
Yes.
Yes, there is, yeah.
Yes.
You look at your roster and there's like little checkboxes.
Yeah, but not, see, the problem I have is I cannot spend time going through all the names if I have to cover all the material. So I want it to be kind of like the students themselves go and check, or maybe I can teach them to do it.
I don't think that there's a way for students to do it themselves, but you could ask the Canvas tech team about that. Something I've done in the past is while students are working in groups or working on something on their own, I take the time to, disconnect from the screen and just go through and look around and mark off the people who were there. I've also done exit tickets for students, so asking them to respond to a prompt at the end of class, and to get out of class, they have to turn that in, and then I use that to know who was there and who wasn't there.
I was just gonna say, my system, I just have their names and then they just have to mark each, I just pass around a folder and they mark it and then I can see very clearly, somebody's not checking their name. They're not initially.
But they can check somebody else's name, which is not,
And they have a
defeat the
flag.
purpose.
And then they have
Aw, yeah, true. That's a good point. I was just gonna share my system. I only have 20 students. I don't really know if I have that luxury, right? It's a luxury. But I have 20 students and they're like right in front of my face every day. They're not at desks. So I actually do a written attendance and then I put it into Canvas later. I also, for my class, make attendance a big part of their grade. So I don't know if that makes sense for you or not, because I don't know what you're teaching, right? But that way they care more and they know why I'm taking the time to take attendance. And it also helped me learn their names. I know every student's name now, so it's it's been very simplified. And then what I do is later I put it into Canvas so that I can keep track. And if I do notice a pattern, and I've already noticed patterns, I email them and I say, hey, I've noticed that you've been late twice and missed one class, and know that 2 lates or 3 lates will comprise 1 absence, and if there's anything you want to tell me about, let me know, how can I help you? So I just keep up with it, but I only teach 2 sections and I only have 20 students in my class, so it's,
If you have a bigger class with a peer facilitator or some kind of other student leader, you can also task them with the taking of attendance.
I was gonna say that, I'm sorry. So the last time I did it wasn't a care report, it was academic alert. I think that I got an email from Tara and it was just like, yeah, this student won't be able to do your class anymore. And for me, I kind of was like, oh, what happened? Like, I just kind of wanted to know what happened, but I didn't know if we could ask, are they okay? What happened? So I just was like, okay. But
You can always ask, and then it's incumbent on the person who has the information to decide what's an educational need to know for you under FERPA. But is the person okay?
Yeah.
Certain people say the person is physically fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
because I don't care.
Yes, we want you to care. I would be concerned if you didn't care. You can always email the Dean of Students Office or call our front desk number. Jonah can help you also if you forget how to log back in, or if you do want to know, is this person okay? And we can determine what, if anything, we can tell you. If you get additional information, you can email us. If you get additional information, you can submit another care referral, because we can now merge the cases together. So don't feel like, oh, I already did one, I'm not going to do another one. You can just do another one, and it's literally one click, and we can make them all together into one. So if you do not receive follow-up from us, that's okay, that is very normal, but you might get follow-up from us. We might ask for additional information. I emailed somebody today because the care referral referenced a document, a physical document they had received, but there was no scanned version of it. So I said, hey, do you have a picture of that you can send me? Because that will help me be able to help the student. So when you log back into the care system, this banner up here, you can actually click and see all of your case associations. So any case that you have submitted, you'll have a tile for each case. And so you can see here the case number and who it was assigned to is the current case officer. So it might start with me, but maybe the next time you log in, it's actually assigned to Tara because we found out that it was purely academic and so Tara's working on it. If you click on the view case details, then you would be able to see everything that you submitted. So all the student information as well as what you wrote. What you wrote. So if you click case details, it'll give you the narrative that you wrote. You can't edit anything, but you can see it. And you can't see anything that the student is getting or anything that any of our notes, nothing like that. Any questions about that before we do a couple of quick scenarios? Okay. So, Jordan, let's see what's going on with Jordan. Professor Malik notices that one of his students, Jordan, who was previously engaged and regularly attended class, has suddenly stopped showing up for 2 weeks. When Jordan returns, they appear disheveled, seem emotionally withdrawn, and have submitted assignments late with vague comments about going through something. After class, Professor Malik gently asks if Jordan is okay. Jordan hesitantly says, "I've just been overwhelmed and I kind of shut down. I'm not sure how to keep up with everything anymore." What do you do?
In terms of a care referral or academic?
Care referral, academic alert,
I care.
best of luck to you. What'd you say? A care report?
Yeah.
What makes you think this would be a care report or care referral?
Because of their well-being.
Their well-being. Anything else? Yeah.
I mean, I might investigate a little bit more before, but I'm inclined to do both. Just from what I'm seeing here, I'm inclined to do both because they're missing assignments and they're vague comments, right? And then very specific. I'm not sure how to keep up with everything anymore. I mean, that's really clear.
Yeah.
Like, would you like some help knowing how to do that? You know, like.
But doesn't academic alert tell you that you're like in the process of you're not doing well? Like, doesn't the verbiage say that you're like close to failing?
I can't remember if it says you're close to failing, but it says there's concerns about like your performance in the class.
Yeah. So like submitted assignments late, and so I'm like, it's all connected, and so sometimes if it were me, I would want to know that both is being affected, right? Not just I need a therapist because I have this experience, right? I'll tell you about my college, but I have that experience, right? I want to know not only we recommend that you see a therapist, but I also want to know like, and your, this is affecting your academics. It's like, oh, right? So there's this connection for me as the student, but it's holistic.
I want to change my answer then. I don't think I would do a care referral or academic alert at this particular time.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I would have a conversation with my student. I think I would tell them where they are in terms of, just their grade and what they're doing, how they're doing in the course.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we have that conversation and that dialogue, and I can have a sense of how they're feeling, I will go from there.
Yeah, that's why I said I would investigate first, but if they were not into talking to me more, I might go ahead and take that step,
And would their advisor be involved in this
In this conversation or in
conversation?
you could ask their advisor if they would be involved in the
Because
conversation.
if the advisor, for example, needs to modify the courses they take, they have to know.
That's why an academic alert would be useful because the advisor would be notified, but I think all of these answers are good answers. This overwhelmed and
Everything
not being able to, going through something, not being able to get everything, keeping up with everything anymore. Is that keeping up with the assignments? Is that keeping up with your daily ability to function as a human being? So definitely worth more investigation. It sounds like they might have the kind of relationship where you could actually probe and maybe get some information, and then an academic alert and or a care referral would be a good next step. So great answers. Let's talk about Emily. Dr. Lopez is teaching an Intro to Macroeconomics course and notices that Emily, a first-year student, has missed multiple homework assignments and scored poorly on the first 2 quizzes. She's present in class but seems distracted and unengaged. There's no evidence of distress, and Emily has not reached out. Dr. Lopez decides to email Emily about the poor academic performance. Emily replies, apologizing, saying she's just been struggling to manage the course load and is trying to adjust to college expectations. What would you do? Julie?
I've never been an instructor, so I'm saying this more from just an advising perspective. I think in that situation, I would probably spend some time with Emily as an instructor and just talk to her a little bit about what I could offer to her as supports and ask her if she wants referral to other offices to help her support that, since we do have so many resources. And I would probably just keep in touch with her very closely, at least over the next couple of weeks, to see if it needed to be taken a step further.
Yeah.
Although it does sound to me like what you're saying is it never hurts
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
to do a
Yeah,
care
yeah.
report. So in that case, I might be a little bit cautious and also do that. But I think I would try to have the conversation first to see where the students are.
Yeah, and if you have the kind of relationship with Emily where she's responding to your email, apologizing, she very, very well may be receptive to being referred to academic coaching by Dr. Lopez, more so than by some stranger named Justin who sends her an email.
Right.
So I would not hesitate to do all the referrals, and you could also do the care referral. And in this instance, I would probably do an academic alert too, just because it sounds like it's very based in course load, based in expectations about academics. So I want to definitely alert the advisor, even if she's not at risk of failing the class, she's indicating that she's struggling with academics. Alex. Professor Chen is teaching a sophomore level course in political science. One of her students, Alex, has missed several classes and failed to turn in a major paper. When Professor Chen reaches out, Alex replies with a short, vague email. I've just got a lot going on. I'll try to catch up, but I'm not sure I can. When Alex returns to class, they look noticeably tired, seem withdrawn, and avoid interacting with classmates. After class, Professor Chen asks if everything is okay. Alex says, it's just been hard to focus. Things at home have been really tough, and I've been feeling kind of stuck. I know I'm behind, but I don't even know where to start.
I'm doing academic alert.
Academic alert?
Me personally.
What about this makes you want to do an academic alert?
Just because they don't really seem like they're open to have a conversation. So I would just, and because of where they are, like they missed several classes, they'll turn in a major paper. You're about to fail.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think that you should know where you are and where you stand and how serious it is. So I think when you get an academic alert, it really raises students' awareness and makes them want to like perform better, from my experience. So I think that I would do it.
And I would immediately afterwards send a care report, because
You can
it
care for
could get even more overwhelming if they get that academic alert without an indication of where to find resources, because there's clearly, really rough things happening at home. To me, that's a big red flag there.
So academic alert and then care referral for the stuff going on at home, feeling stuck. Kind of a 1-2, Julie.
Exactly. Same thing. I would, because of that, if that statement, there might be other things going on that they need to talk to somebody professionally about.
Yeah.
I would initiate the care referral.
Kara?
I think another reason that doing both is helpful is because a lot of times students in those situations say they aren't reading their emails. They responded to the professor, but they're not opening maybe a student's email. And not always, but sometimes those students have had these situations before and they're already active with their advisor, and oftentimes if the advisor is reaching out from the alert, they're a little more responsive, not always, but or we can put a hold on them if we need to. You might have another way to reach them.
Or they might have already have like an advising appointment scheduled about registration
Right.
and just pretending like everything's fine, going to meet with their advisor and talk about next semester, and then if the advisor has the information, they can do that intervention then.
Right.
Maybe also follow up on if they did, make an outreach to care.
Similar to let's walk over to an office and if they're on Zoom, we can be like, here's the link, let's log in right now, make an appointment with
Yeah.
Justin.
I've had so many students say, I can't get an appointment with the counseling center. And I'm just like, why don't we just call them right now? They don't ever answer when Tavia answers the phone. We schedule the appointment and do it.
And I'll just add to everything else, for me, the game changer is I've been feeling kind of stuck. And so they're expressing a feeling right there, and so for me, that feeling deserves care, especially when it feels stuck.
Yeah.
Because that can lead to dire actions.
Yeah.
So.
I think that this is one that is right for both. I think they are all right for both, but this one in particular, it's hard to know which I would prioritize, so I would just do the both. And Samantha. During office hours, Samantha, a junior in Professor Reyes' seminar, asks to speak privately. She seems visibly upset and eventually shares, something happened with someone in my residence hall. I don't feel safe there anymore. It's hard to sleep or concentrate, and I don't know what to do. I haven't told anyone except my roommate. Professor Reyes listens with concern and asks if Samantha feels she's in immediate danger. She says no, but clarifies that she was touched inappropriately at a party and has been avoiding certain social spaces and people ever since. She doesn't want to get anyone in trouble, but needs to talk to someone. What do you do?
Is that counseling and the Title IX office?
Equity and Title IX and the Center for Wellbeing Programs. So there are two great places to start. Center for Wellbeing Programs, because they have victims advocates who can support the student as she wants to be supported through any processes related to what occurred to her. And Equity and Title IX, because this employee is a mandatory reporter and has to report anything that falls under sexual misconduct to that office.
Should the care report also be submitted?
You can also do a care referral because, as I said, we communicate regularly with Equity and Title IX, and so if it's determined that it doesn't fall under their policy, so there's nothing that she could pursue, or if she decides she doesn't want to do an investigation, but maybe she still wants some support, then Equity and Title IX might ask us to be the supportive resource for her if she's not going to pursue their process.
And I think the important thing here is the immediate danger, like I've had students who feel like they are, and then at that point you need to get the PD at end of call.
Yeah. I think this is another one where it's really important to be open with the student about what your next steps are.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell you, I am a mandatory reporter. Based on what you told me, I have to report this. I've also said to students when it feels like a disclosure might be coming, to just pause and say, I just want you to be aware, like these are the kinds of things that I can not keep private, so I'm gonna have to report them, and then give them the ability to choose what they want to share and what they don't. And I also think in this instance, because we want to give her the agency to have the control of the situation that she wants to have, to make sure she understands that I'm doing this report, it is up to you whether you respond and whether you take this further, but I have a duty to reporting, but you will be able to drive the situation in terms of like what you do or don't want to move forward with. So I know we are at time, and that was our last scenario. Before we wrap up, and I will happy to take questions, but I'm happy to stay for a little longer as well. You might have noticed the terminology care referral throughout, and I've been trying to use the terminology referral versus report. This is an active change that you're trying to make in the Office of the Data Students to move away from reporting like you're in trouble language to referring and leading you to a beautiful oasis of water, not trying to like shove water at you. So if anything you all can do to help us make that change, and I've been here for a long time, so even I sometimes have to remember not towards referral, would be super helpful. So with that, are there any questions I can answer? Again, we're going to send this out, and I'm happy to come to any perfect meetings you all are having. She's been doing a lot of roadshow this fall, so my team, we're all happy to come out and talk to other people. So definitely refer friends, tell friends, and we will come and find you. Thank you all.